It's snowing outside, so I'm in my nice Doctor Who hoodie with my lovely big TARDIS blanket. If you don't get what this video is about, I think you're missing something. Today is January the 2nd. Yesterday was the Doctor Who New Year's special. I really liked it. But spoiler alert, massive spoiler for the episode. Ryan and his granddad, whose name I've forgotten, Graham. I just like it's Bradley Walsh. But yeah, Ryan and Graham left the TARDIS. And Ryan especially hit me more than I thought his leaving, even though I already kind of knew. I just wanted to come on to YouTube, onto camera, and explain why the character of Ryan is so important to me. If it wasn't already blindingly obvious, my favourite TV show is Doctor Who. It has been pretty much ever since 2005. Doctor Who came back with Christopher Eccleston. I went, I like this, more please. The show itself means a lot to me. I got bullied for everything pretty much at primary school, but one of the things that happened is me and my friends used to play TV shows and things, particularly British kids. We did Dick and Dom in the Bungalow in the playground, and one of our most regular ones was the story of Tracy Beaker. We did quite a lot of Tracy Beaker. But one I tried to get into my friendship group more and more was Doctor Who. So we played Doctor Who quite a lot, and anytime I wanted to play the Doctor, my friends would have been alright with it because they knew I knew the most about it. So they were like, yeah, okay, Catherine, you be the Doctor. But there'll be other people going, you can't be the Doctor because the Doctor's not a woman. Well, I also have dyspraxia. Again, that was something I was bullied about, even though not in my control. Dyspraxia, or DCD, development coordination disorder. My brain's wired differently. That's probably the best way of putting it. Spatial awareness is different. The big things, spatial awareness, like throwing and catching for me is a nightmare. Talking sometimes just stops and I go and for about 5 minutes. So there's some of my YouTube videos I've cut so much out because I'm rewatching it going, what am I saying? I sound very eloquent sometimes in my videos. I'm like, that's because I put a lot of work in. But yeah, it affects me every single day in nearly every single way. My handwriting is atrocious, and if I just write something down, if you tell me, jot this down, number one, I will do it, but it'll be messy and you might not be able to see what it is, and two, I'll be a lot slower. So if you want something jotted down fast, don't ask someone with dyspraxia. We aren't that good at that. So my handwriting is atrocious, and if I focus hard on it to try and get it right, to make sure it's clear, my head hurts. So much effort and focus to just try and write one or two words. But yeah, no, it's difficult for me to say exactly how it affects me because I've never been without dyspraxia. Like, if you have a cold and you go somewhere, oh, I've got a cold, and they go, oh my gosh, like, what's wrong? And you go, well, I've got a stuffy nose, my head hurts, because you've been without the cold. People with learning disabilities, such as myself, we don't know what it's like to not have it. So we just know the diagnosis we've been given, and that is essentially your brain is wired differently. What no one really talks about with learning disabilities, like, I can only talk from dyspraxia. I'm not talking about ADHD or even dyslexia or autism. I don't speak on behalf of any other learning disability. I don't even really speak on behalf of dyspraxic people because every one of us is different. I can mainly just speak on behalf of myself. No, what no one tells you is the hardest bit isn't saying I have this. It's what comes afterwards. Like, because I can go, I have dyspraxia, I have dyspraxia, I have dyspraxia. That's all fine. It's the moment someone goes, oh, What's that? It's been pretty tough, actually. One thing my parents really tried to get through to me is that learning disability and everything, you shouldn't put yourself in a box with it. You shouldn't go, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can do that. Don't get yourself down on what you are less able to do than other people. The thing with dyspraxia is, like, no one knows about it. And if you do know about it before watching this video, that's amazing, and I'm really glad you do. But I've spent most of my life explaining to people what it is, and that's tough. The worst ones all came at secondary school, because I got given 25% extra time in exams because, as I've said, I'm slower writing, and I got the use of a laptop. An assistant I had to help me navigate the world of dyspraxia. She said that I would be faster typing than writing. And yes, that's the same for pretty much everyone on the planet. But if you don't have dyspraxia or any other learning disability that affects your handwriting, if you're a normal human being on that front, my typing is your writing speed, just to get that through. So me typing and you writing in exams and stuff, that would be level. But with dyspraxia, my brain sometimes just takes an extra minute or like 10 sometimes to understand questions. And so in exams, when I get an essay question, my brain just spends like 2 minutes just going, okay, read the words again. Just like, I don't understand what, Essentially, my brain is just slightly slower at just processing. It's the processing speed. I went to a fairly small school. I got into a grammar school. I had small classes and everything, and I was blindingly obvious. My year was 75 people, and my class was about 25. And so when they recommended I had a laptop for exams, they also recommended I took a laptop into classes in order to get notes down. This meant I was a big walking target of, this person's different. Look, she can bring a laptop into the classes. So every time I got the laptop out, I was hearing people go, why does she have a laptop? Why does she got a laptop? Just being whispered around the class. End of year exams, because we did end of year exams, years 7, 8 and 9, which is like 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. We had, in my school, we did exams at the end of the year to see how we were getting on in every single one of our subjects, and because I had extra time, they needed to let me know when I would be finishing. So what they would do is they'd write on the whiteboard in the front of the classroom, start, finish, Catherine, start, finish. So again, just a big blinding light going, this person's wrong! There's something wrong with her! Yeah, so I felt really stupid, and I felt really, there was something wrong with me. And even though the class, like my year, knew that I had the use of a laptop, extra time, every single time there'd be someone who would ask me why. And I'd have to go, I have dyspraxia. It's a learning difficulty where I need extra time for processing the questions, and my typing speed is your writing speed, because I'm faster typing than I'm writing. Yeah, we're all faster typing than we are writing. Know that. My typing is your writing. I'm not getting an advantage. I'm getting equal footing. And I mean, obviously you can tell. It's still a little bit of a sore point in me. The worst response I ever had is, I would say, oh, I've got dyspraxia, and a girl from my year went, no, I'm sorry. It's not dyspraxia, it's dyslexia. I think I know what I've got. Don't do that, please. If you learned anything from this video, just flip this over. If you learned anything from this video, dyspraxia and dyslexia are very different. There's some crossover, but they're different. So that was secondary school. A lot of explaining what I've got several times, including to teachers. That sucked more, I think, telling teachers. I just had a flashback. In primary school, just want to share this story. This is why I normally write down my things for my videos rather than just letting me talk to a camera, because I jump around. But in primary school, there was one teacher who put 100 maths problems on the board. And she said, if you can finish these, you can go out for lunch. But you have to be in here until you finish all 100. I didn't have lunch that day because I'm just slow at writing. But every single one of my answers was correct. That's probably the best example to illustrate what I was dealing with. I'm smart. This is my self-love New Year's resolution kicking in. I am smart. I've got a degree in classical civilization. I went to a grammar school. I've got good A-levels and GCSEs. I am smart. But I'm just slow writing, and the teacher wasn't sympathetic to that. And I had a number of teachers who weren't sympathetic to that. Either they didn't fully understand what was going on, or they maybe didn't care. I hope that's not the case. But there was some of them that if I could sit down with some of my old teachers, I'd give them what for, to be honest. And there would be other teachers I would cry and hug dearly, because obviously there are some really amazing teachers out there. I had teachers who supported me, treated me like a normal kid, just wired differently. Understanding is very important to anyone in any human capacity. The empathy and understanding for what someone else is going through is very important. And if you can get your head around learning disabilities, other like autism, ADHD, if you can understand that they are just another human being wired slightly differently. Got that off my chest. Year 7 parents' evening, my mum printed off several copies of this, like, it was about that thick, I'm not even joking, that thick, just pamphlets full of information that my mum found online of dyspraxia, how it affects children in particular of school age, and what teachers should do to accommodate that and support them. And she printed off several different like packs like that, and she would talk to me and be like, is that teacher sympathetic? Is that teacher okay? Do they get it? And if I went yeah, she'd be like okay. And she'd just go, so you are aware she does have dyspraxia, so she needs extra support. She needs to be sat close to the whiteboard so that she can see the questions clearly, and so she has less distractions. So that parents' evening, I remember sat there, and there was one teacher in particular who, hopefully unknowingly, was quite cruel to me about dyspraxia and what I had to deal with. And my mum was already aware of this teacher, and she was relishing the chance. Most teachers that night, she gave them the opportunity to go, yeah, I would love to actually read that information. Can you? There was one teacher who supported me endlessly but didn't fully get it, and she was like, I want to learn. And my mum was like, do you want this pamphlet? And my teacher was like, yes. And the next time I went into a lesson, she had it on the desk and she'd highlighted bits, and it was just like, oh my gosh, that teacher cares. But this other teacher, my mum didn't give her the option. Bam! Read it! I love my mum so much. She's so cool. Essentially all of that was to illustrate how even not just having dyspraxia affects my life, informing others that I have dyspraxia affects my life, and how other people's interact with me affects my life so massively. And yeah, it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. So that's why there were 2 instances that really meant a lot. And this is why representation matters. I'm not going to get into the fact that representation of every single person in humanity should be a thing. We should be able to see anyone from like all sectors of the LGBTQIA plus community. We should be able to see like every single race represented in a good and negative way. Like, have them be heroes, have them be villains. Don't stereotype. And we should be able to see like plus size people be love interests. Like, representation matters. But in the context of this video, I'm going to say why representation of dyspraxia matters hugely to people like me. Along with being a big Doctor Who fan, and I will get on to Ryan, I am a huge Harry Potter fan. And there was one interview moment that made me cry, and I've rewatched it several times. And I remember it happened and several of my close friends sent it to me. So I really love Harry Potter, and I loved Daniel Radcliffe. I thought he was funny. I just really liked him. Thought he was a nice guy. I wanted to hang out with him. There was one interview moment where they asked him what it was like to have dyspraxia. I thought I was a huge minority. Like, no one else was like me aside from those few kids I'd met when I was a little kid. So when essentially a hero of mine, because that's what Harry Potter was to me, and Daniel Radcliffe certainly at that point, when a hero of mine says, yeah, I have dyspraxia, there are not enough words to accurately describe what that was like for my brain at that moment. Yeah, simply having a human being that pretty much all of my generation was looking up to, especially in the UK, having him go, I have dyspraxia, it was an incredible moment. Now back on to the reason why I'm dressed like this, wrapped in a lovely big Doctor Who blanket. Ryan Sinclair, Doctor Who companion to 13th Doctor, the 13th Doctor, let me get that right. He has dyspraxia. Aside from Daniel Radcliffe, I have not seen another celebrity outright go, I have dyspraxia. I have not, I don't think I've ever seen a character on TV have dyspraxia. So, for me, to see a character on my favourite TV show of all time outright have dyspraxia, and not only just be on the episode just as a character in the episode, but be a companion of the Doctor, it meant a huge amount. I'm sure every single kid who grew up watching Doctor Who has imagined at some point them travelling in the TARDIS. There's been quite a lot of the dark bit of my brain just kind of going, well, the Doctor would never travel with someone with dyspraxia because you're all clumsy and idiots, and, you know, being like that. And just, like, the Doctor's told that Ryan has dyspraxia and doesn't even really blink twice. But I had people talking to me about it, being like, you know, that bit with him cycling on the hill and falling over and chucking the bike off, is that realistic? And I say, hell yes, that's realistic. When I was learning to ride a bike without stabilizers, I wish I could have chucked that bike. I really wish that I could chuck that bike several times. I felt seen. I really did feel seen. The fact that he struggled with ladders, which some people were like going, is that just like over dramatizing it? And like, I struggle with ladders. When I have a really bad dyspraxic day and I'm walking around somewhere, more often than not, I'm looking at my feet. Look at my feet, look up to see if I'm walking into anyone or anything, back at my feet. Because I want to make sure I'm not about to fall down a hole or trip up and stuff. It takes a massive amount of concentration. So when you're on a ladder, quite a bit of coordination to climb a ladder. So when that whole scene was going with him climbing a ladder and slipping and being really panicked, my heart was in my mouth and I was just like, I get it. So aside from the fact that in the series he plays basketball and at one point throws this ball and it has to land at a very specific point to blow up Cybermen. Aside from like things like that where he has to do trick shots and things, and there's the point where he runs and is shooting all these things and his pinpoint accuracy and stuff. Like, if I did any of that stuff, miracles can happen, I guess. Yeah, that was times where I was a bit like, but Ryan's impulse control and things like that is things that I recognise quite a lot within myself. The day the episode came out, the first episode, I tweeted my thoughts on it. And there was one moment that I felt I really did have to talk about. Aside from all the other bits I really had to talk about. One line that stood out to me, though, was when Graham said, I suppose you're going to blame that on dyspraxia as well. That's my life. That's my life, because as I said, I don't know what it's like to not have dyspraxia. So when I walk into the corners of things or go and brush my hair out of my face and actually hit my head, I don't know if it's dyspraxia or not. And especially when I was a teenager, I used to blame dyspraxia for everything. Everything under the sun. And my mum would be like, don't blame that on dyspraxia. Don't blame that on dyspraxia. Like, you are your own person. You can be upset you have dyspraxia, and there are certain things you can blame on dyspraxia, but don't give yourself the excuse that you have dyspraxia so you can't try, you can't, you know. So that line happened in the episode. Graham went, I suppose you're going to blame that on dyspraxia as well. And suddenly I felt all of my family look at me. It was a very realistic portrayal of what it's like probably to be a family member of someone with dyspraxia. My mum has said those words to me pretty much verbatim. The portrayal of Ryan having dyspraxia might not have been accurate, pinpoint accurate all the time, but in some ways that doesn't matter to me, because of course I would have loved a pinpointed, like, someone who researched dyspraxia so thoroughly that got it perfectly. But then again, every one of us is different. So I'm sure when I went at the screen, that's not entirely accurate. Another kid with dyspraxia went, yeah, that's like me. We're all different. But the baseline is I had dyspraxic representation in my favourite TV show as a main character. Yeah, I could talk for Britain on this, as I'm sure you're aware. I'm sorry that this is so long, but it's a topic I felt I really needed to talk about. But there's one story I did want to say. The fact that I was at work one day and I slightly tripped up the stairs. Something that happens to me pretty much every single day. It's just, spatial awareness issue. And I had there was a kid near me who went, oh, you're clumsy. And I went, yeah. Yeah, I'm clumsy. And I got chatting to him a bit later in his tour, and he went, are you alright? Because you tripped. And I was like, I'm fine, it happens to me quite a lot. I actually have something called dyspraxia. And I was about to go into this is what dyspraxia is, and the kid went, oh, like Ryan from Doctor Who. That's why representation matters. It's a responsibility to show humanity. Every single person should be able to see themselves in a character, in a celebrity, so they don't get in their own head that they're stupid, they're slow, there's something wrong with them. It's important. If you have questions about dyspraxia, I am going to be doing another video. I already planned to do it. I did have a Google form in the description for a couple of times, but no, I had a couple of questions on it, but not really enough for me to do a full video on it. So if you've got any questions about representations of dyspraxia, or dyspraxia in general, how it affects me, what I wish other people knew about it, please Google form, just let me know. It would be great to do another video on this. If you want me to go into more detail about why Ryan's portrayal of dyspraxia isn't 100% accurate for me, I will do that. But I just need to do a video today to go, thank you very much, Ryan Sinclair / Toshin Cole, for bringing people like me into the TARDIS. It was brilliant having you on board. Like, comment, subscribe, stay totally awesome.